All right, and we are live. Hey, everyone, welcome to another episode of the Gaming Perspective Podcast. This is an unnumbered episode because I've done away with the number system. So, welcome to another episode. We're operating on a smaller cast today because Mr. Eric Jackson is spending the day with his lovely wife, who is her birthday today. So, happy birthday to her. Wishing them all the best. Hopefully, they got a babysitter and can enjoy themselves. So we'll introduce the panel that is here today. So, as usual, my co-host with the co-most, Mr. Samuel Colbert.
What a stupid thing. Hey guys, how's it going? Hope everyone is doing well. We're here. We miss you, Eric, but we hope you're having fun. We got a lot to talk about. So, yeah, let's get into it.
Yeah, and of course, my other co-host, Jared.
How's it going, everybody? Thanks for tuning in. Let's get talking. Excited to dive into our topics for tonight, and always be another good night.
It's another good night talking about video games.
Oh, yeah.
And yeah, that's it, video games, because I have no interest outside of video games. So, we'll just briefly go through this. What have you guys been playing this week, Jared?
Well, that was really nice. Now I'm going to talk about. I'm sorry.
Whoa. I'd say the most outstanding one, I guess, has been Absolver. I've been playing that a lot recently because it came to Xbox Game Pass, and that game has been fantastic. Love the martial arts fighting aspect of the game. It's like action martial arts, so of course that's fun. Battlefield 5, been playing that. Ace Combat 7, played that last night and a little bit today, and that's a fantastic game. Love the music in it, and it just we need more games like that. There's not enough fighter jet games, good ones out there, and I've been waiting for this one since Ace Combat 6, but that's what I've been playing.
Right on. And Sam?
Yeah, so actually, I've been playing a lot of Super Smash Bros. Ultimate with my bros because a friend I didn't have Smash Bros yet, but a friend actually brought over Smash Bros and a Pro Controller and said, "Hey, it's a gift. Here, take this, guys." And I'm like, "Seriously?" And so, that was awesome. We spent the night playing Smash Bros, and that's what I've been playing with my brothers. Centers unlocked. We didn't get King K. Rool unlocked when he came up as a challenger, and I'm still really annoyed about that because I want him as my main. I'm really annoyed about that. Shame. It is what it is. But we've been having a lot of fun with that. Beyond that, I've been playing some Overwatch, some with you guys too. And
yeah, it's been fun actually.
Yeah, it has been. I'm looking forward to the lunar event coming up in just 5 days. Actually, that's coming up, and we can get some of those skins. Did you guys see the Reaper skin that they're advertising by any chance?
Nope.
It looks okay. Remind me to send you a picture of it. It looks really, really good. I mean, as usual, they always do a good job with their skins. But yeah, that's
so good, man. So good.
Have I seen the Reaper skin? Oh, bless your soul, Sam.
Oh my god. Anyways, yeah, that's pretty much what I've been playing. I've been enjoying the last of what multiplayer I can really play because Resident Evil 2 is right around the corner. It's less than a week away, and I'm just going to be eating that up once that arrives. So.
Right on. And I'll be sitting over here crying over the fact that I am not playing Resident Evil Remake 2 or...
Hold on. I get it.
Yep.
I'll be right back.
Yeah, so what have I been playing? I actually beat 2 games I never thought I'd actually be able to claim that I'd beaten. I beat Celeste and Cuphead in the same...
That's pretty impressive.
Celeste that game was insanely hard. That game was the last level drove me nuts. That's what I heard. I for Celeste, I will full out admit I slowed down the speed. I used the assist in the final level to slow down the game speed because it was insane. So I beat Celeste, and then after beating Celeste, I kind of had this after you play a really good game, you sit there and you go, what am I going to do now?
Yeah, you had that lull and go.
I've had that happen a couple of times. I'd say I've had that 4 times that I can recall. Once after beating The Witcher 3, once after beating God of War, after Red Dead Redemption 2, and The Last of Us. All 4 games. It's like afterwards, I'm just like,
You
Well,
don't know
now
what to
what?
play. And the worst part is, like, there's games you go, you kind of want to play it, but then they're not as appealing enough, and you go,
Do you? Yeah,
oh,
exactly.
nah,
Do
not
you listen to the Easy
anymore.
Allies by any chance? Do either of you guys
No.
listen to the Easy Allies? One of them made a great point. They're a great podcast, by the way, fun group of guys. And he was like, the problem we have now, and this is such a first world problem. It really is. But the problem is there's so many 10 out of 10s now that we can feel let down when it's anything but. And it's a very legit criticism these days.
Yeah, that's true. We're spoiled.
Mhm.
Honestly, we're pretty spoiled.
Yeah,
Yep.
so I beat Celeste and went, you know what? I beat this game. I could probably finish Cuphead now. So I load the game up. I had gotten stuck on King Dice like a couple of months ago, and I went, I'm never going to beat this thing. It's just frustrating. So I did King Dice. It took me about 10 tries. Then I A-ranked him. I was like, okay, we doing this. And then I got to the devil. I had to go to bed, so I was like, okay, I'll do the devil tomorrow. I died about 5 or 6 times to him. So I spent a solid 2 hours probably on the devil. And I get to the second phase and just get destroyed every time. And I was like, this is annoying. I was just about to just turn off my Xbox and go do something else. I was like, I'll do it one last try.
Uh-huh.
And I A-ranked it.
Wow.
Didn't get hit. Nothing. Got all the parries. Perfect finish. I can't get all the A ranks on Island 1, but goddamn, I got all the A ranks in the casino.
There you go,
Amazing. Absolutely amazing.
And now I can't figure out what I'm going to play now because I'm really empty on the inside. So I've just kind of been playing Overwatch.
That's fair. That's fair. That's kind of, like I said, that's kind of where I'm at until Resident Evil 2 remake comes out. I hear you.
I still feel like I'm somehow going to manage to get that game.
You need to, dude. You need to. You really, really need to. It's going to be good.
Yeah, I don't
It's
know how
gonna
I'm
be
going to
good.
do it, but I'll figure it out. But so
Figure it out.
We'll be on that hype train soon enough.
Yeah, figure it out.
Yeah. There's a game coming in February, and depending on when I get the code, that might cut into my Resident Evil time. So that may change things down the line. We'll wait and see. So the first little bit we're going to get into is actually a game that has slowly been edging up my hype list.
Yeah, same.
Days Gone by Sony Bend. Despite how long it's taken and everything else, we got some new stuff for it. So they released the collector's edition, revealed what it is and what you're going to get with it, as well as a new trailer which concretes the April 26th, 2019 date. So all those people that were upset about the store saying it was the 31st of December 2019, but every other site said it was April 26th. Calm down. It's coming. It's not delayed. And the game looks really good. What are you guys any quick thoughts on the collector's edition or
Well, no major thoughts other than I just really like zombie games and just give me more zombie games like Resident Evil 2, sweet. Days Gone, sweet. World War Z, sweet.
Days Gone isn't a zombie game. They're not zombies, Jared.
But
Are you calling the Wrath of Ivan down on us? I think you're calling the Wrath of Ivan down on us. You got to understand, Anchorman B2.
You can't do that, man.
Who's Ivan? He subjected us to an excellent rant about why it's still a zombie game. So
his ears are probably burning right now, and he's like smelling smoke, going, "Oh, someone said something wrong."
Exactly.
It was Nick. I know it. He's gonna be here at some point tonight, and it's gonna be your fault.
Okay, so I do have a well-priced collector's edition. It's not Sekiro's collector's edition, and it's not Witcher 3, but you know what? It's pretty darn reasonable for what they're throwing at you. I mean, it's $140. You get a statue, you get an art book, you get a steel book. Like, okay, sure, we can.
It's no $300 mask, man.
No, it's no $300 mask. It's pretty good. I'm gonna try and get
mask, man. That's still a sweet mask.
I can't guarantee I'm going to be able to get it, but I'm going to try because it looks really, really good, and I do want to play the game. And the other thing I will say is, can I say this newest trailer finally did a good job at showing what this game is. Finally, I think this was the first trailer that actually, don't get me wrong, the first trailer ever was impressive with the number of zombies, and the second one in 2017 was neat and whatnot, but like this trailer actually gave off the vibe of, hey, this world is changing, the seasons are changing, the environments are changing, the freakers are mutating, the wildlife is weird, you know, there's all these distinct regions like empty lava tubes that are actually in Oregon, and the rivers are going to freeze. It's like, that is insanely cool. I like that. I like different mechanics to play around with, like, or the fact that your bike is going to have a harder time getting traction on mud from rains. Like, that is cool stuff. That is, who cares if the main character is boring? Like, I can deal with it if the game is fun like that. So, I will say it's still not enough to quite make my top 10. Like, if you asked me today to revise my list, I wouldn't. But I will say I'm getting more and more interested, and I'm really rooting for Bend here. I want them to have a big win. So I'm really looking forward to this.
Agreed.
Yeah. And I looked up online, shout out to Sony, who's actually not been doing the traditional double the price in Canada routine that a lot of collector's editions are. It's actually only $170 in Canada, which... that's actually not bad, because most collector's editions are in excess of around $250 to $300 up here usually.
Yep.
So it's cool. I'm probably not going to buy the collector's edition because, as a general rule of thumb for new IPs, I don't buy collector's editions. It's just lawbreakers, man. Lawbreakers. But no, that was cool. I don't think there's much more we can say. The game needs to come out for us to really.
At this point, it's the waiting game. At this point, it's just let's see, let's get it out.
Yeah, pretty much. There's also another really big trailer for a game that I don't know. I feel like this is the one fighting game that gets even people that don't like fighting games to talk about fighting games. And that, of course, is Mortal Kombat 11. And I'm not going to lie, some of the fatalities actually make my stomach turn.
Like, every time you think that they can't get any worse, they find a way to make them even worse.
I want to know who comes up with this. Like, do you need to talk? Do you need a hug? Like, legitimately concerned for some of the fatalities. Like,
man, I didn't know ripping off someone's face and then punching them with a giant bone spike and pulling out their brain and eating it was, you know, a cool thing to do. But there you go. Mortal Kombat 11, we're doing that as a fatality. No. And man, I'm sorry, it may be gruesome, but it looks sweet. And that's probably only the one reason I play the game is those fatalities. Yeah, that's about it.
Mortal Kombat 11, we got a bunch of stuff. We saw the $300 collector's edition. It's available on April 23rd. It's releasing for Xbox One, PC, PlayStation 4, and surprisingly enough, Nintendo Switch. And I'm hearing rumors that if you play it on Nintendo Switch, it looks exactly like the original Mortal Kombat. What? I'm sorry.
Look man,
look at the reveal trailer and tell me yep, that's gonna run on Switch.
That was like a gaming dad joke. It's just from the one you go, oh, why?
I'm definitely wondering about that. I'm wondering how on earth they can get this thing to run well on the Switch. We'll see. We'll see about it. I mean, it visually looks impressive. It does. It looks really, really good.
Well, honestly, when you go for a screen that small, you can cut some corners. I mean, there's some part away, right?
I quote the great Shinobi from Twitter. Just because you can port it to Switch doesn't mean you should port it.
Yeah,
An example, Ark Survival Evolved at 260p with a whopping 3 frames per second.
Oh my god.
The one that actually made Digital Foundry go, yeah, this isn't it. No, it's really exciting. I don't know what it is. Like, I am not a huge fighter fan by any stretch of the imagination. I'm not good at them, and that's why I don't like them. But Mortal Kombat will always hold that place in my heart because it's that one thing where you and your friend who are terrible at fighting games can both like feel kind of badass playing. Because you're like, oh, I hit a combo and I just ripped your eyeball out and like shoved it up your butt. Like that's the great thing about Mortal Kombat is that it's got a skill curve, but it's a lot more forgiving at the low end. It's not like Tekken or some of the Japanese-based fighting games, which are really technical in the lower end as well as the higher skill ceiling. So Mortal Kombat 11. That's pretty exciting. I'm not sure if it's going to be a day one for me.
I'm not sure about that either. It's just because I said this to you guys, like Soul Calibur 6 just came out. That looks really cool. I haven't picked it up yet. And it's like Injustice 2 is like $30 now for everything. All the DLC.
Not just that, but like the time. Like we don't have enough time right now between
like,
all the games.
Exactly. Like it's just it's sorry. It's not high on the totem pole. I do want to ask one question about Mortal Kombat 11 before we move on, if you guys don't mind.
Okay.
So Killer Instinct was great with its guest characters because it pulled from Xbox properties, right? So you had General Rom and you had the Arbiter in there and Battletoads and all that. Okay, Soul Calibur has done the unthinkable and managed to get not only Geralt of Rivia, which, woohoo, but also managed to get 2B from Nier Automata, basically the waifu to end all waifus. So my question to you guys is, how does Mortal Kombat manage to top this? Because they used to have the coolest guest characters.
Because they have better original characters than 90% of the guest characters that show up in any of the other fights.
Man, it's Mortal Kombat. Like it's one of those things where it's embedded in your childhood. It's so far back. It's that one series that stands out. Like, the fighting game.
So in other words, you're saying it's just the fact that people who barely play anything can still recognize Scorpion and Sub-Zero.
Yeah, exactly. It's that arcade nostalgia thing. You go, dude, it's Mortal Kombat. You just gotta play it.
I will say Mortal Kombat X, Mortal Kombat 10 had both the Predator and the Alien as guest characters.
Yeah,
so I'm just saying, I think they've got at least one crazy something up their sleeve.
Well, and it's on Game Pass too, so keep
in mind they had Jason, they had Leatherface, they had
Jason's on there, Leatherface. A lot of horror characters.
Yeah, because there was a whole combat pack around that. They brought back old Mortal Kombat characters, which is something else they could do. Like who doesn't like a fatality where you play a drunken fat guy and you fart and you burn someone's face off? Like Bo Rai Cho is like the god of DLC characters because he's just drunk. It's great. And throwing face huggers as the Alien was. I kind of
Shao Kahn, Predator. There's a lot of Sector. There's there's Jade. There's another one. There's actually quite a few aliens in there.
Basically, what I'm going to say is if you're interested in Mortal Kombat 11, pick up Mortal Kombat XL the next time it goes on sale. It's the game with all the DLC characters. It's usually on sale for like $5.
And Mortal Kombat X is in Game Pass.
Yeah.
So, there's that too.
Well, yeah, but who has Game Pass subscriptions?
Millions of players.
Oh, knock it off.
If you could see my face right now.
No, thank you.
I feel attacked. So, in a great article from our very own Samuel Tolbert, IO Interactive has opened a new studio called IOI Malmo.
Yeah. It means IO Interactive Malmo because IO Interactive is usually abbreviated as IOI. So there you go.
Yep.
The more you know.
Somehow, through the magic of Hitman 2 not making top 20 in the NPDs and them releasing a $60 remaster of Blood Money and Absolution, somehow they managed to squeak a brand new studio out of that. Which I'm insanely happy for. I'm like, yes, bring on more content. These guys are amazing. I don't have much to say other than it's cool to see people seeing small developers build new studios. That's something we don't see very often. Like, let's face it, we've seen more studio closures than we have seen new studios opened. And it's great to see IO Interactive in a place of stability. Now, how they gain that stability, that remains the question. Any thoughts?
Great.
Nope.
I'm not sure how though. Like it's one, it's just like the meme, a surprise to be sure, but a welcome one. It's that again. Like I'm curious. Skeptical is too strong a word. I'm curious because it's like Hitman 2 didn't sell well. I know it did better on PC, which isn't reported. Digital sales on PC are not reported in MPD. So I know it did better on PC than it did on console. But I'm still having trouble believing that they're expanding solely off of this. However, if they somehow are, okay, fantastic to you. Congrats, hats off. And if not, then okay. I wonder who their mysterious benefactor is.
Yeah, no kidding.
Like, come on, Ready at Dawn's expanded by like 50 to 80 employees on all the $3 copies of the Order 1886 they sell on Flash, PSN Flash.
But they got PlayStation backing, though. They got Sony backing.
They don't? That's the thing. They're not a signed PlayStation studio. Ready at Dawn is not. They're an independent studio.
Yeah. They are not partnered with Sony anymore.
That was a one-off game that they did.
Huh.
Well, no, it wasn't a one-off. That's not true. They did a lot of stuff on the Vita and the PSP before that, with like God of War, Chains of Olympus, and stuff like that.
Yeah, but they predominantly were a handheld developer. They got Order 1886 was like their big console, very much like Days Gone is for Sony Bend.
Mm-hmm.
So let's hope that Sony Bend doesn't repeat the mistakes of their previous. But no, it's cool seeing new studios popping up, and the fact that it's one of my favorite studios, awesome. I really want to see a new IP out of these guys.
Yeah.
Because IO Interactive, they did the Hitman series, which has been phenomenal, and I want them to keep doing that, but I also want them to have the ability to go out and do something different, because they were also responsible for the Kane and Lynch games, which I'm not sure a lot of people are familiar with, but they were really good games back in the day.
Mm-hmm.
They were really good games, and they'll always sit back in my 360 catalog as some of my favorites, right up there with I think Visceral did them. The Army of Two series was one of my favorites as well. Those kind of fall into that what I call the B movies of video games. Just high-packed action, mindless violence, and just a lot of fun.
Yeah, some of the best games you'll ever play.
Yeah. So, congrats to IO Interactive. Now comes to the topic, though. Definitely be Dunk City. I'm going to call it Dunk City. EA has canceled another Star Wars game. Can we pour another one out for another canceled project that apparently, as it came out earlier today...
Like, how can you constantly keep shooting yourself in the foot over and over and over and be like, no, this is fine.
I want to know how EA has managed to cancel
what are you doing, man? Like,
the real question is how does EA manage to cancel this many Star Wars games? And LucasArts, for how many years, was able to turn out worthwhile games at the drop of a hat?
I don't know, man. This is ridiculous, and it's getting to the point where just to pull the contract from EA, give it to someone else who's willing to do it, and just get games made, because I'm sure there'd be a bunch of indie studios who are frothing at the mouth to get their chance to make a Star Wars game, and even AAA studios. So
I'm gonna let Sam say his thoughts, because I've got a thought on this, but it segues a little bit. So, Sam, thoughts?
Okay, so one important thing to keep in mind is, as bad as it has been at EA, this is not as bad as when when Visceral Games game was canceled, because when that happened, Visceral was closed. Amy Hennig left, Visceral was closed. It was bad. This time around, the open world game has been canceled, but no one at EA Vancouver has been laid off. EA Vancouver is primarily a support studio. That's probably why you've never heard of them before. They do support work mainly, but they were taking over Visceral's game. but using the assets to make an open world game. This time, the assets that have been used from this open world game are going to be used to make a smaller game. Because according to Jason Schreier, EA wants a game that'll be out sooner, by fall 2020 or so, in time for the next gen consoles. So it's not as bad, but it's still pretty bad. It's just, there's a couple of things we need to keep in mind. EA is showing trend chasing and a lot of problems with their management. B, there's something else we need to keep in mind. Lucasfilm and LucasArts fell apart before the Disney acquisition after the Disney acquisition for a very good reason. Because now Disney has an obsession with making sure everything fits their canon. And that's okay. I respect that. I really do. But the problem is, that means that if they're making a game within the time frame of the movies, it's absolute hell to coordinate everything and make sure that it all fits. There are horror stories coming out from Battlefront, from the DICE developers, and that game came out. Those games came out of them saying, "Hey, we finished this weapon design. Okay, go send it to go send it to Disney for approval." And they have to send it off, and a week back they get, "Actually, it needs to be adjusted right here. You need to make this change." Now imagine that for every single detail in a game that is already strenuous and difficult to make as is. Like, it's already a giant financial risk, except for the fact that it's Star Wars, and just pile it all on. So again, I'm not saying absolve EA of criticism. I'm not saying that at all. Almost any other big publisher would have been more competent with this. But we can't ignore the fact that Lucasfilm/Disney is having an impact. And until they get their heads out of the sand and they let the developers branch out and do other stuff like, what is it the fans want? Oh, yeah, the fans don't want something new. They want you to remake Knights of the Old Republic. They want proper sequels to that game and a remake of the original. They want more far-off stories in the 4,000 years before the Republic.
I want a new Republic Commando. That's
or
what
Republic
want, right?
Commando,
I want a new Republic Commando sort of thing. Like, I want a new Jedi Knight. I want a new Dark Forces.
And until they stop this obsession with micromanaging everything and give the fans what they want, it doesn't matter whether it's EA or Ubisoft or anyone else. They're going to have this problem.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's all I have to say.
I'm just going to randomly throw this out there. It makes you wonder if it's even going to be in consideration that maybe Disney might want to or think about entering the game market. Can you imagine if Disney ended up branching out into the games industry, making their own
if
in-house video games?
That's a very good point, Jared. But here's the thing: at risk of derailing us, of course, if Disney was going to branch out, building up yourself as a publisher and building those kinds of studios from the ground up is insane. That's why Microsoft is acquiring studios in addition to building the initiative and growing their existing teams. Because the initiative will have something to show for us in 3 or 4 years. Their game will come out in 5 or 6 years. It takes a long time to build this stuff up from the ground up. If Disney was going to break in, they would just acquire somebody. They would just make some big purchases. So, anyways, that's all I have to say.
So my biggest thing is, I think the biggest mistake, and it's not something anyone could have controlled, but I think licensing Star Wars to one company was a massive mistake.
It was.
And the simple reason is that the reason why all these Star Wars games, like as Jared said, like Dark Forces is one of my all-time favorite.
So good, man.
It's so good. I still play it on Steam. Oh, it's one of the best. It's one of the better Star Wars games. But the thing is, it's not hard to hit Star Wars fans in the fields or get them to buy your game or anything like that. Star Wars is an insanely easy brand to sell. And the thing is all these different companies that were making Star Wars games or licensed out the Star Wars name wanted to make games as good as their competitor that was also making Star Wars based games. And I think with EA having the ball all in their court, they're kind of just fumbling it between studios going, what can we do that can make money?
Yeah, they don't even know what to do right now, man.
I think they're missing the big point of if you just make a decent Star Wars game, whether it's a third-person action game, whether it's the Battlefront games, whether it's anything like that. Like Battlefront 2, if they'd not gone so like full hog on the microtransactions, that would have been an amazing game.
It is now.
It's an amazing game now. Yeah, that's the thing. It is now because they fixed it. They fixed what was wrong with it, you know. But and word is, by the way, I forgot to mention this. I know I'm dumb, but I forgot to mention this. Jason shared that reportedly EA's CEO Andrew Wilson never wanted this Star Wars deal in the first place. It was actually his predecessors that made it, and he inherited it. It came into effect once he came to power. And according to them, he wanted EA to invest in new IP and original content and things like that, and double down on existing stuff like Anthem. That's one of the big reasons Anthem is getting a push from him, is because he wants new stuff. And I respect that, but I also think that's definitely playing into the politics of what's at work here. It's ugly. I wouldn't be surprised if Disney tries to break out the contract before 2023, because that's when the 10-year contract ends. But I'm not sure if they can. And if they can't, they're just going to weather the storm. I pray Respawn's game is good. What can I say? I pray that theirs turns out okay.
Oh, please let us see some of this year's E3. Please, just a little bit.
Let's look at
well, I mean, we better, because it's supposedly coming out this November. Like, they've got it scheduled for holiday 2019, so we better see it.
So they're going to pull up Bethesda, be like, hey, I know you guys have been waiting, so here finally here's the release date. Here's all this gameplay, another trailer, and here you go. Finally.
No, it's going to turn out it's a mobile game made by Respawn.
You shut your mouth. Don't you start this.
I'm sorry. If anyone's got high, the thing is that what kills me, and it killed me to say this, Respawn Studios, after they released the Star Wars game, they gone. If the Star Wars game even gets released, they gone. Because it kills me, because Titanfall 1 and Titanfall 2 are amazing games that deserve so much more, but literally EA has done everything in their physical power to make those games not succeed.
There's too much talent in that studio to let it go. They'll be like, if that ever happened, that'd be the...
Yeah. Well, did you not see Respawn worked independent? This is my always, and before we go into our discussion topic tonight, this is a conspiracy theory that Ivan has helped me hone to an absolute point. No. Is Titanfall 2. Everyone remembers the release leading up to Titanfall 2. Everyone was insanely excited for this game because the original Titanfall was amazing. Respawn was riding on a high wave. EA was publishing. Respawn wasn't owned by EA. Titanfall 2 gets its announcement date, or its release date, and then EA plops Battlefield 1 like a week? 2 weeks? Before?
A week.
It was a week before Titanfall 2 comes out. And Titanfall 2 got absolutely slaughtered because Battlefield 1, ironically, was a Battlefield game that actually pulled in a bunch of different demographics.
It's a good game. It's good, man.
Well, it pulled people in, and then everyone forgot about Titanfall 2. Titanfall 2 plummeted. And then EA's like, oh, we're the good guys. We're buying Respawn so they can stay in business after we screwed over their game. To me, just comes across as shady when you're publishing a game and in a similar genre and you plunk one of your heavy hitters right in front of it.
Mm-hmm.
And then you buy up the studio, the game you basically set up to bomb.
Yeah.
Like I said, conspiracy theory, but with really what we've been seeing with what EA and Activision have been doing, is it really that far-fetched?
Unfortunately, no. Unfortunately, I totally 100% believe your conspiracy theory.
All right, Tinfoil Hat Podcast. But seriously, my heart goes out to everyone that works on these games, though. Like all these cancer projects, like my heart bleeds for Amy Hennig on a somewhat frequent basis because, like, having the Uncharted 4 situation, going to Visceral, and then try and make the best Star Wars game she could, and then EA basically coming in and going, this isn't going to make us money. So, bye. And, like, shopping Visceral Studios and basically being like, yeah, Dead Space doesn't matter anymore. It's terrible.
That's a painful memory.
Am I straight out boycotting EA? No, because I won Battlefield 5 and I'm playing it and I'm enjoying it.
Damn right you are.
But I'm not happy with some of these decisions they've made. And what we're seeing a lot of, I think, with Activision and EA is a lot of corporate change, and it's flowing down the ladder, and it's not necessarily good.
It's also the community being very aware now of what's happening, what's going on, and the practices that they are implementing into these games. Well, and it's good that they're speaking out and also speaking with their wallets, so to speak, right?
Well, and things aren't sliding under the radar anymore as much. Like Activision gutting Blizzard and then letting go of the Bungie contract and then paying a new CFO $15 million. People are kind of going to go, well, what are you doing?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's like you're cost cutting, you're telling Blizzard to cut cost, and it's having an effect on their content. Like the latest expansion for World of Warcraft was like the shortest and smallest one yet, but you're giving this guy a raise. Really?
Right? Yeah, let's give you a $3 million signing bonus.
Yeah. And like the thing is like, as a general rule of thumb, like I'm one of the few people, like I don't mind if you want to put microtransactions in the game. Like the whole brunt push against EA and Activision because they're microtransaction heavy. Yeah, it's fine. Microtransactions are fine to a point. But the thing is that constantly you're just making bad decisions with it. Like if it, like Star Wars Battlefront 2, the fact that it had that beta and people were like, these damage buffs you get from these crates are pretty broken. You should probably fix that. And they just went, nah, it's fine.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Buying 25% damage boost for multiplayer games doesn't affect gameplay. The moment you start messing with gameplay with microtransactions, you might as well be selling a mobile game. And that's where I'm going to leave that. Because this could go on to absolutely insane territories. But basically, EA, do better. You just stop. Like, I remember I used to get chills when I'd hear Electronic Arts challenge everything. Like, that used to send chills down my spine. Now I see it and my eyes roll into the back of my head.
Yeah. You used to get excited for those good old Need for Speed EA games back in the day. And not anymore, because look how that turned out. Great at the start and slowly downhill.
I just need someone to talk to somebody at Playground Games and like just take the one thing that Need for Speed did really well that no one else has challenged and do police-based chases. And can we get like Need for Speed Most Wanted but done by Playground Games? Like can this happen at some point?
Wouldn't that be fantastic? Or you know what? Just do a massive Need for Speed DLC, kind of like Hot Wheels, but a little bit more. So it's almost like a small Need for Speed game inside Forza Horizon 4. Yeah. See?
Yeah.
That would be good.
We know what the people want.
Damn right I do.
All right. So our big topic for this week is what Sony, Microsoft, and Nintendo have kind of game planned for 2019. Now, if you look over at the Inner Circle Games Network or www.tickgamesnetwork.com, you'll realize there's a piece by Sam with that title in it. I was originally just looking for enough news to fill us out for this episode that I read this piece and I went, it's a really good conversation starter.
Mm-hmm.
And we've got a really unique scenario with this year particularly. It's the first year where there's a ton of games that are supposed to be coming out before the end of the gen. And this isn't just a shot at Sony. This is a shot at Nintendo and Microsoft. We got all these games with flat rate, either 2019 or no release date or release windows at all. And we're just walking into 2019 going, so when's it happening? So like, what's going on?
And that's why it was something, Nick, really quick. So the interesting thing is when I did this piece in 2017, the question was really on Microsoft, and we knew what Nintendo and we knew what Nintendo and Sony were going to be doing. This time around, we kind of know what Nintendo and Xbox or Microsoft are going to be doing, but the question is really on Sony. That's something I found interesting. Anyways, continue.
Yeah, and we can sit here for probably hours and discuss why companies are going away from release dates, and we've seen it as a large push. A lot of developers aren't pushing for release dates. I think it's mainly due, if you go back to 2016 and 2017 when games weren't hitting release dates, the anger and outrage was getting a little overboard. Things like Uncharted 4 getting delayed. What was it, 2 weeks?
Yeah, and that was literally just a printing issue. If I don't, you know what? It's in Jason Schreier's book. I can't say that. I don't remember. It was just a petty thing, and I remember Neil Druckmann went to Sean Layden and said, "Look, we know, you've delayed it twice already. I'm sorry. We need another couple of weeks." Sean Layden literally went, "Done. Go. You got it. Go ahead." Which is pretty cool.
Yeah, and that's the thing is like. Delays are okay, but I find this release window thing it's smart, really. But it also leaves things open to interpretation and a lot of guesswork on our end.
Right.
Especially when it comes to what is going on with PlayStation, because we are in mystery phase of their magnum opus that is 2019 of we're not doing E3, but we will communicate with you guys later, which has been their stance for the past 6 months. So the easiest thing we're going to do is we'll do this category by category. And we're going to talk about what we think is coming in 2019 from these big three and what are some... Well, I'm going to say rim shots, like things that could land in 2019, but might land in 2020. Because there's some things that are obvious that are going to land, like things like, I think Gears of War 5 is a guaranteed 2019 game.
Gears 5. They've dropped, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's absolutely 2019.
But yeah, like there's things like that. Like
Ori in the Will of the Wisp, that's guaranteed 2019 as well.
Yeah, things like that. There's going to be guarantees. So once Jared gets back, we're going to talk about Sony first, because I think the most amount of intrigue is with Sony right now.
Sure.
Because they probably have hosts some of my most anticipated games by a console developer, but I don't know when they're coming. So Sam, why don't you give us your thoughts for Sony 2019? Like, people, go read the article. But
okay,
if you want to hear it from the Sam's mouth, then listen here.
Okay, so you mean for all three, or we just want to focus on Sony right now?
We're going to do a category by category. So we're going to start with Sony.
Okay, so as I said in the article, it's really laid out there. You got to look at the state of their studios and partnerships with both the known and the unknown. Days Gone is first up. April 26th, we've already talked about how that's actually looking better than we expected. So there we go. You know, we're excited for that. We're interested. We hope it does well. Bend has gone a really long time without a game, so it needs to do well. Concrete Genie from the 12-man studio at Pixelopus currently is aimed for early 2019. But the fact that we know Days Gone's release date before that tells me it's coming in May. I think, like that Detroit Become Human slot there in May. Dreams held its beta recently, finally. Good God, that's taken long enough. So this is tough. I think it's probably going to be aimed as a summer title, like, you know, anywhere from June to July. I think that's what they're aiming for at this point. But if they're not ready, then I can see them doing it in September as well. So, you know, we'll see. Unlike Days Gone, I'm still not feeling it on Dreams. They have some trouble there. I wish them the best, but we'll see what happens. Judgment is a third-party exclusive from the Yakuza devs. It was previously called Project Judge Eyes, and so no idea when that's coming out. SIE San Diego studio is working on MLB The Show. Nothing new to report there. Now, they've got London studio working on Blood and Truth, which is a VR game. They had a lot of success dropping some VR titles in the later half of the year in 2018. I see them doing the same thing there, anywhere from September to November. They formed Manchester Studio back in 2014 just to make VR games. And, okay, I don't know about you, but, okay, a studio takes a long time to put together, right? Nick, that's pretty well established. A studio takes a while. It's difficult to build these things from the ground up. But the fact that we haven't heard a peep out of them from 2014 is a little concerning to me. Just a little bit. That's a little eyebrow raising. We'll see what's going on there. The Medieval remake is coming out, and that is almost certainly going to be a summer or an October game, depending on when it's done by. Done by summer, you drop it in summer. Not done by then, drop it in October, play on the spooky season. That's a good year, in my opinion, guys. I think that's a good year for Sony. It's not the blockbuster, cinematic, crazy action year they had in 2018 between God of War and Spider-Man alone, but it's a good year for them, in my opinion. And the reason I'm stopping there and saying it's a good year for them is because, no, I don't think Death Stranding, The Last of Us Part 2, or Ghost of Tsushima are coming out this year. I just don't see it.
All right, so I'm gonna harken back to a few things you mentioned. So the first thing is Judgment. That released in December. It comes locally. It gets localized sometime this spring. It released in Japan December 13th, 2018. Because like all the Japanese developed games, they always localize. The Japanese release date always happens about 6 months to a year. I think Yakuza 6, it took them 6 months to localize. So I definitely expect Judgment probably in the summer. And for anyone that's interested, it got amazing reviews in Japan. And I know a few people on Twitter that actually bought it and played it from the Japanese versions. And they said the game plays absolutely amazing. And it differentiates itself enough from the Yakuza games that feels like a whole new series. Mm-hmm. So that's pretty exciting. Dreams. They had the betas, but they had some of the nastiest NDA contracts required for those betas, and they're only plucking specific screen grabs from specific creators and sharing them on social media. That doesn't give me a good vibe.
No. Yeah, this is not the time to be keeping people under NDA. That's the part I don't understand right now. I don't get that. Like, the beta, okay, people, we need to recalibrate here just to give you an idea. It's almost worse than Crackdown 3 at this point, because the Dreams beta was originally supposed to come out in 2016. Okay? Like, it's a little ridiculous here.
Yeah.
It's a little ridiculous.
I was just thinking, maybe they made it a little bit more complicated than they intended, and there's,
Oh, I'm sure they did.
Like, maybe it's a little over the top to, like, it's cool what the things you could do, but at the same time, it might, like I said, just little intimidating, so it might turn off a lot of people if they can't really figure out how to properly use it or to make what they want to make, sort of thing, right? People get frustrated, like, I can't do this. I keep trying over and over and over and over again. I can't learn how to do it. It's too complicated. Blah, fuck this game, sort of thing, and it's done, right? So hopefully it's not that. Hopefully it's not. I really hope not, because I like that kind of game. Appeals to me very much. So I kind of hope for the best, but at the same time, I'm hoping it's not too complicated, but then I won't be too surprised if it is.
So to give everyone a little bit of history on Dreams, because a lot of people didn't start paying attention to this game until 2016. So at Gamescom 2012, Mia Molecule announced they were working on 2 different projects, one being Tearaway, which is released, I believe. Maybe. Dreams was revealed at PlayStation Meeting 2013. With them showing a technical demo on stage involving 3 people creating an in-game band. A teaser for the game was released in July 2014, was officially announced at Sony Interactive Entertainment's press conference at E3 2015. A beta for the game was set to be released in spring of 2016, and then was delayed to 2017, and then to 2018, and then the full game was delayed from 2018 to 2019. So, this game, the thing is, it's like the beta pissed me off with Dreams. Because this is a game you're going to have to sell people on. You need as many people to play this to get hooked on it. This isn't something you can sell a TV ad and someone's going to buy.
Yeah, people have to play this to understand it. That's just all there is to it.
It's an amazing game if you've played it. And it has an insane amount of potential. But then going, oh, we have a beta, but it's limited to people that are subscribed to our newsletter?
Yeah.
And we're not taking. And also, by the way, if you applied for their newsletter the day they announced the beta, yeah, they auto declined you. So,
Oh boy.
So they did that, and then they're like, "Oh, we're doing another beta," and then it was mainly influencers. Then they did a more open beta where they were sending out codes to people that did apply. Via the newsletter at a later date, but it came with a whopping NDA where basically you can't talk about the game, you can't take screenshots, you can't do anything. So in a game where we desperately need to see more, they're doing everything possible to see less. Doesn't bode well for me. And I think Dreams will be the eyesore in the lineup for 2019 for PlayStation. Yeah. Because I think
I hope wrong, but I agree, dude. I agree.
Because Dreams is going to be one of those critical successes where people that review it are going to love it, but no one's going to buy this thing in mass. And it's sad because it has so much potential.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I have to think part of the reason it's been delayed this long is because it's fully intuitive with PSVR. So I feel like they had to delay and push it back from just being a controller-based game to being a VR experience as well.
It seems that's possible, yeah.
And I feel like that created a lot of headaches. Days Gone's a guarantee. It looks like it's going to be good.
Yeah, it does.
There's not much more to say on Days Gone. Genie, once again, looks cool. Be great to hear more.
Yeah.
But that's one of those things that they can drop a PlayStation blog code post with a trailer and.
Yeah, that's not a big game. That's a smaller game. It's not.
Now comes the interesting thing, though, because the multiple conversations that swirl around Death Stranding, Ghost of Tsushima, and The Last of Us Part 2.
Mm-hmm.
You can ask 5 different people on social media, which one do you think is coming? And they'll give you a different varying answer of what ones they think are coming. I'm just going to throw this out there. Anyone who is saying they're talking about PS5 coming in 2019, you're wrong. It's 2019 now, and I can officially say you're wrong. You're terribly wrong. And people that are saying Ghost of Tsushima, The Last of Us Part 2, and Death Stranding are all coming this year, you are also wrong.
Yep.
And please stop.
Yep.
Does one of these games come out this year? Maybe. Which one do I think is most likely? I want to say Ghost of Tsushima because Sucker Punch has been working on that for 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
Last of Us Part 2 has been worked on. We don't really have a ballpark date for that, do we?
We don't have a ballpark date for any of them, dude.
No,
except for Death Stranding because it was when Kojima split from.
Right. I mean, we know that from some commentary that while pre-production on The Last of Us Part 2 began in early 2016, I believe. Early pre-production began then. The full team at Naughty Dog was not working on the game until late 2017. Late 2017 is when all of Naughty Dog actually began developing it.
So to me, that screams that they're not going to be, with the level of detail we saw in that E3 trailer, there's no way they can turn out a Last of Us length game and give us Part 2 in 2019.
No.
Mm-hmm.
No,
that is the game where I feel I will be the most wrong on, though. Like, if it comes, I'll be like, okay. I can accept that one. People are saying Death Stranding, though. Please stop. Just for the love of God, I don't even think like.
Studio's been out for 3 years.
Well,
give it time, man.
Naming a time when Kojima made a game in 3 years and his whole history of development.
Well, like exactly. You look at the quality of the game that it is, and what people expect it to be, or what they're hoping it for to be, and you really think that's going to happen. Like let's say 2 years time. Give it 1 year for studio setup and 2 years for actually working on the game. You think it's going to come out in 2 damn years? Hell no. That ain't happening anytime soon. You got to give it at least another, honestly, in my mind, 2 or 3 more years before it might be ready to come out.
Okay, so to give you guys an idea, so Metal Gear Solid came out in 1998. Metal Gear Solid 2 Sons of Liberty came out in 2001, so 3 years later. Metal Gear Solid 3 came out in 2005. So we're seeing about 3 years of dev cycles because Metal Gear Solid 4 came out in 2008, and then Metal Gear Solid 5 Ground Zeroes came out in 2014. It took 6 years to get the demo.
Now, he was working on an engine there. You do have to keep in mind they were developing.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
So that needs to be borne in mind. But still, the fact is, Death Stranding hasn't yet been in development for 3 years. I believe he can put out a game in 3 years, but come on here. It'll be in 2020. Like,
give it time. Give it time. It'll be there. It's just not now.
I think with the thing with Death Stranding is that is not a game you need to rush. This is
no.
We're not in the phase where we need to sell PS4 consoles.
Honestly, if we have to wait 5 years to get God of War quality games consistently, I'm okay with that. And it should happen. We should be patient enough to want to wait that long of a period of time to get these quality games. Because honestly, it's worth it. Like, how is it not worth it to get, like, let's say a Red Dead Redemption 2 every 5 years, or as good of a quality game, or God of War, or Horizon Zero Dawn, or that kind of game.
And that's the thing. It's like you don't want the studios to make like a half step. I'll give you a perfect example. No. Me with Fallout 4. I loved Fallout 4. Was it the best Fallout game ever? No. But then doing a half step and then doing Fallout 76, that significantly soured me. I know it's a completely different scenario, but that game should have had another 6 months development before it came out. Easily another 6 months of development. That game should not have come out when it did. And it should not have piggybacked on the back of Red Dead Redemption 2. That was just suicide for that game.
Yeah, no kidding.
Regardless, I'd love to see any of those big three drop this year. Do I think any of them are? I don't think we're going to see... I just don't feel like we've seen enough to justify a release date. Because even with God of War, which came out in a very bang progression, we saw 3 separate gameplay trailers of that before we got a release date.
Well, not only that, but they explicitly said almost a year in advance, yeah, it's coming in early 2018.
Yeah. Naughty Dog's put absolutely no time constraints on when The Last of Us is coming. And Druckmann's saying everyone focused on that motion capture where he's like, oh, we filmed this emotional scene, blah, 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 blah. I can't wait to show you more in 2019. Show you more. Show you more. That doesn't sound like you're getting the game. That sounds like he's going to have a bomb gameplay trailer to show you.
Exactly. That sounds like we're going to get some meaty game details later this year. That sounds like we're going to see a lot of game footage, new trailers, like I could even see them doing like dev diaries, like, hey, here's this new mechanic. Now Ellie can craft firebomb arrows and all this other stuff. Ellie moves quick. Ellie can dodge. Like, I see them doing those kinds of videos for sure. In-depth stuff, deep dives, but not releasing.
Mm-hmm. The thing is I think if Sony's smart, they've got a fairly packed spring/summer. They ride out third party through the holidays and then drop Ghosts, Last of Us, Death Stranding in like spring/summer 2020. I don't have a problem with that. Because to be brutally honest, some third party developers have kicked into full gear for this year. So I don't feel like we need the big, like, we don't need a huge first party push. Like, let's face it, this isn't the point where like Sony's trying to see how many PlayStations they can sell. They don't need system selling.
No, and you know what? They don't need to right now. I think it's easy to tell that they showed a little bit too much too early, and they recognize that, and they're taking this and they're going, okay, we need to sit back and just kind of coast through because they've built such a strong foundation this whole generation that I don't think they really expected how far it would carry them into the end of this generation into the next one. So they realized, we can actually safely sit back, reevaluate a little bit, maybe come back with a stronger game plan than they had before, and take this year off and come back and just be like, yeah, we're ready to go at it and bring maybe something more unexpected this time around for technology or hardware or something like that for fans. So
yeah, for sure. And I need the energy to be is I need people to stop taking that when I say Death Stranding or Ghost of Tsushima or Last of Us Part 2 aren't coming this year. That's not a let's dunk on Sony thing. I just think it's not a good idea to rush these
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. If we're talking about games that don't have release dates, Last of Us Part 2 is my second or third most anticipated game. But I want it to be
it's a fantastic game. Like
ready. Let it be. Give them a good 2019. Like I said, they'll have a solid 2019 and then a blowout of those last 3 blockbusters. Bang, 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 right in the lead up to the PS5 in 2020.
Yeah, and we saw them do it with the PS3. There was some absolute banger games that came out on PS3 before the PS4 or even after the PS4 launch that some of them never even made their way to PS4, which is still the strangest thing. It is beyond bizarre to me that God of War Ascension will forever be locked on PS3 where it absolutely belongs to stay. Sorry, Corey.
Damn.
Nintendo. Nintendo seems to be in kind of the same situation that Sony is. We're not giving you guys release dates, but we got some pretty bomb games. Like, okay, the elephant in the room, Luigi's Mansion 3. Come on, like, just give me a date. Give me a date. That's the day I buy a Switch. That day right there. So what do you guys think? Nintendo 2019, the Switch has been a gangbuster. Absolute behemoth because of lack of competition in the handheld market.
Yeah.
What do you think going into 2019 Nintendo's got up their sleeves?
They barely had any exclusives in 2018 and they still sold gangbusters. They're going to be just fine with even more this year.
Yeah,
and I realized before anyone gets at me, I realized that one of those exclusives was Super Smash Bros. Ultimate.
Honestly,
you don't have a lot launching. That doesn't matter. My point stands. That just came out in December, not even 2 months, barely 2 months ago. So my point stands. They're going to be just fine. Luigi's Mansion 3, Animal Crossing, a big brand new Pokemon, a core Pokemon RPG. They're going to do gangbusters. They're going to do great. I don't think Metroid Prime 4 or Bayonetta 3 are ready. I think those are 2020 titles, but I do think we'll see more of them. And I think we'll actually see some footage in any case instead of just a teaser or a logo, respectively. But they'll do well. They'll have a good 2019. Pretty simple.
Yeah. The thing is like the Switch, it breaks every trend basically of what sells. Because it's had a couple of big exclusives and everything else, but it sold gangbusters all year. And to be brutally honest, the first 6 months of 2018, why would you buy a Switch? Octopath Traveler, maybe? Some Wii U ports?
Yeah. Not a whole lot.
What's killing me with Nintendo is they have an absolutely insane back catalog on the Wii U that they can pull from because no one bought Wii U's except me. And they could just pull all these games onto Switch and just, we don't have a new exclusive this month. Oh, well, we could work on porting these games across. Like Mario Builder was a brilliant game on Wii U. Why don't we have a port of that? Because that was actually a really unique take on Mario outside of just go to the castle, save the princess. Woo. Like, to me, like, I get why they did, because the sales were astronomical for it. But the whole porting over Super Mario Brothers U and still calling it that and bringing it to Switch
And buy it for full price too.
and back for, I was just like, stop. Like, it's sold, and like all Nintendo things, they just
$70 Canadian for a Wii U port onto the Nintendo Switch. It's a little ridiculous in my mind. It's just like, why? Why are you doing this to your fans? Even though they really don't care, they won't criticize you because they gobble up everything you say and are excited because they're starved for actual good, fresh games. Oh,
Tommy brought up in the chat too. I forgot about it. There was that data mine leak that there will be a Legend of Zelda game reusing Breath of the Wild's assets in late 2019.
I remain skeptical.
I remain skeptical for the simple reason is never in the history of video games has Nintendo just hauled a Legend of Zelda game out of their arse and like
exactly. It's not that. It's just, I'm not saying there can't be truth to it. Like, I think what could be happening is them building on Breath of the Wild, using the mechanics and the engine and systems in Breath of the Wild as a base, and then going from there. I can see them doing something like that. It's just saying, oh, we're reusing assets, it's coming out in 2019. That is such a non-Nintendo thing to do with one of their biggest franchises.
Mm-hmm.
I don't see it coming. I don't see it coming in 2019. 2020 is different, though. I think something could happen in 2020. I think, because that would basically be like 3 years. A 3-year dev cycle for Zelda seems realistic. Especially if they're using Breath of the Wild as a base, I can see that happen. But you know what? We'll see. Smash Bros. Was both announced and then released in 2018. So we'll see. We will see what happens.
That's true. That's very true.
Yeah, see, the endless thing for me with Nintendo platforms is I get endlessly frustrated with them. I had the same frustration with Microsoft. Microsoft appears to be learning, but Nintendo, my complaints are still falling on deaf ears. You have so many memorable characters and franchises and everything you can pull from, and you do the most unimaginative things with them. Like the fact that it's 2019 and we do not have a Mario RPG. You look at how big the RPG genre is now and how much of a slam dunk a Mario RPG would be in 2019. And we're not even talking about it. There's so many things with Nintendo. It's like their whole decision. The Wii U is starving for games. And they announced a Luigi's Mansion game for the 3DS.
Yep.
Nintendo's have found insane amount of success with the Switch, and I appreciate what they're doing with the Switch. But they have yet to prove to me that they are not tone deaf to their fan base.
Well, for some games, they listen attentively. For most other games, not so much.
I want the attention and love and detail that Super Smash Bros. Ultimate got. I want that to other franchises. Because that game set a precedent, whether you have complaints about the game or anything else. The amount of fan service and love that you could see in that game. I don't even like Smash Bros. That much. And the amount of detail and love that went into that game. I just don't get that from other mainline Nintendo games. They've yet to prove to me anything that any of their 3D games like Super Mario Odyssey just feel like kind of revamped Mario 64 games.
Yeah.
And yes, I realize I play things like Gears of War where you go cover to cover and you shoot things and it's the same repetitive gameplay. But there's games like Moss, Astrobot. I know I'm using PSVR games, but those are really memorable platformers. Ori is another example of platformers that are going beyond and above what the standard is. And Nintendo's just like, yeah, you hop on Goombas.
Yeah, they don't have... Although they seem to be branching out in a different direction because Octopath Traveler, I know you guys don't know a lot about it, is a super serious adult RPG that tackles a lot of dark stuff. So they seem to be open to branching out in other areas now, but not a ton.
I think Sam summed it up pretty well. We're going to see, you know, we've got this mainline Pokemon game, which they're going to pull a reveal trailer out. People are going to lose their minds over, and it's going to sell like 14 million copies. And I don't know. I've fallen out of love with Nintendo. I was really all in to get a Nintendo Switch just for the portability. Now I'm just getting a Vita. I feel like that'll be a good video on the channel. Why I bought a PlayStation Vita in 2019. Top rated response: you're an idiot. So yeah, like I'm not super invested in Nintendo. So if they do something amazing this year, awesome. If they don't, not the end of the world. Because I don't think anyone's using a Nintendo Switch as their main primary gaming console.
Mm-hmm.
I don't. Anyone know anyone that uses the Nintendo Switch as their primary?
There's lots of people that do. At the same time, they're not exactly a hardcore gamer. They're more the person that's on the go, constantly on the type sort of thing. So they play what they can.
And data proves that. Like Matt Piscatello from MPD has even said that most people who own the Switch own at least one other console. People are using it as a complementary system, not a mainline system. And that's totally fine. That makes sense.
Yeah, it makes sense when you're competing in a big three scenario. It's absolutely not a bad position to be in.
Nope.
Now comes another fun one. This is very much like the Sony one. Microsoft.
Mm-hmm.
Can we say, honestly, out of all the three, this is the one brand that has the most potential, but also the biggest potential to fall as well, if not done properly? But
for sure. Absolutely.
But honestly, I think for all us gamers out there with this one brand, with Xbox, and the way they're handling it right now and preparing themselves for the next generation, it's hard not to be excited, even if you're not an Xbox fan, because we all know there's a lot of innovative things that Microsoft and Xbox brings out with their technology. Like we're about to see HoloLens 2. Finally, we might see a little bit more. Maybe we might see a little bit of a tease of future gaming integration with it, maybe for the Xbox brand itself. Who knows? But in the end, I think we all stand to benefit the most from a successful Xbox generation out of all the big three next generation.
I'm gonna throw the speedball out there. Microsoft seems to have a realization. It seems to be very apparent by how their executives are acting online. And yes, I'm talking about Mike Ybarra. There was a certain realization that they seem to realize that the ball is in their court, and this is 2013 all over again. They can either shoot themselves in the foot or they can do massive.
Yeah.
They're teasing a lot of big things right now, and we're seeing there isn't a day where a rumor isn't dropping about what Microsoft's doing, which is so weird because I'm coming from like being a huge Xbox fan in 2016, where you had to wait till E3 and Gamescom to get any information on Xbox stuff, and now it seems like Xbox and Sony are fighting for mindshare right now.
Yeah, but like even then, I think Xbox is still being talked about the most because they're the one that everybody has their eyes on the most right now. Of course, Sony and PlayStation, they're doing wonderfully and they're coasting on a very successful generation, but everybody's talking about Xbox right now. Everybody. And it's been like that for a little while too.
In the conversation.
Yeah, it's on everybody's mind, if you're a fan or not too, right? Because for some reason, they always end up being a part of the subject.
Well,
somehow.
I think with this, like going into 2019 with Microsoft, we've had some reform over the years. There is a lot of people don't seem to understand how much has changed at Microsoft since 2013.
Substantial.
Like especially like when you start talking executives, because like back in 2013, Ybarra wasn't there. A lot of the guys that are working there now weren't there originally. So decisions that were made prior cannot be blamed on certain people and everything else. And the thing is that this Xbox division now is hungry. And when I say hungry, I reference back to like, this is feeling like the Peter Moore days of Xbox. Because it's literally they have marketing deals lined up for like the next 12 months for almost every major game. They managed to somehow get Devil May Cry, which traditionally is associated with the PlayStation console. They're like, yeah, we get the demo first and all the marketing rights and this and that. And it's just like, wow. Like they're shelling out money right now. And I think this is going to be the year where Microsoft proves that they're in the console market to stay.
Definitely.
We've got a lot of potential with this year. We've got Gears 5, which should be high on anyone's watch list because the Coalition's doing amazing work. I like Gears of War 4. I'll die on that hill. The multiplayer.
I did too.
Gears of War, the biggest credit that the Coalition needs to get is Gears of War 4 multiplayer is probably more balanced than it ever was under Epic's hands. Which,
I would agree with that.
It's not perfect by any stretch of the imagination, but they try so hard.
Well, it's impressive because when you go from Gears of War 3 to Gears of War 4, honestly, in my mind, in my own personal opinion, it's hard to tell the difference that it switched hands for studios. Like, it just felt like
mechanically perfect.
Yeah, it felt like the perfect step in evolution that the series needed to take, sort of thing, and a good direction for it to take. And honestly, I had no idea because that it was actually a different studio that made it until probably a year after launch. Going, oh, wait a second, I never put the 2 and 2 together. That they're different studios because it's still just a fantastic game. They did good. They did really good.
Well, I've referenced this before, but there was a quote from Rod Ferguson about Gears of War, and they said the Coalition's goal with Gears of War 4 was to make a traditional Gears of War game. They wanted to prove that they still had the talent to pull that game off. And at all intents and purposes, Gears of War 4 is a really good Gears of War game. After Judgment, it is an absolutely fantastic game in comparison. And now Gears 5 is them stepping out of the box. Yeah. And I think Gears of all the mainline Xbox IPs needs the step out the most. Maybe you could argue Halo, but that's just because I want a Halo RPG and that's the hill I choose to die on.
Hey, me too, man. I'm on that hill too. Don't worry.
Every time I look at Destiny, I'm like, damn it, this could have just been Halo good. But
it's not. No, get on that, please. Let's forward. Move on. Oh,
Gears 5 has loads of potential. The storytelling with Gears 5 looks like it's going to be off the wall. Now, I haven't started the first Ori, but from what Sam's told me, from what he's played 3.
Sorry, what?
We go over this every podcast. I haven't started Ori yet.
Man, come on!
I'm not doing another platformer. I just did
Figure it out.
Celeste. I'm not doing Ori right off the bat again. But Ori and Will of the Wisps.
Okay,
this is going to be. I'll make the prediction. Ori and the Will of the Wisps is going to be the best rated Xbox exclusive this generation.
I agree. I think we're talking a 93 or a 94 easily.
Oh, yeah.
It's going to be ridiculously high.
Yeah, like Ori and Will of the Wisps, they're building on a formula that was already astounding.
Mm-hmm.
The art style is better. The visuals are better. There's going to be, you said branching skill tree?
Yes. There's different skills and stuff that you can get.
Different skills. They're fleshing it out more. I think some studios get too complicated with sequels. They want to try to blow the player away again. BioShock 2 is a really good example of that, where it was like yeah, BioShock 1 was great, but you didn't have to try to top yourself with BioShock 2. Just give us a good story and a few more mechanics and we'll be happy. I think Ori is going to nail that perfect sequel, as in it builds on what was previously done. And I think it has a huge opportunity going forward. I think Moon Studios does absolutely amazing work, especially considering that they're not a physical location. They rely on a lot of contractors to get such a, like, platformers all rely down to timing. You imagine trying to get like microsecond timing reaction button press cues like synced up when you're working remotely. That's insane. It's not a game, but we're gonna get Cuphead DLC.
Yeah, that's gonna be pretty.
I'm fine with that. That's fantastic. It's a good game. Should be supported.
Yeah. Do you think we're gonna see a Forza Motorsport this year?
No.
No, we're not getting a Forza game this year.
We're
definitely not getting one from Playground. They just came out with that. And
I was just gonna say, actually, I think we'll either get a tease. They'll pull a Bethesda move. They'll tease it and be like, "All right, it's coming out this fall. Their big ambitious Playground Games project, Fable or otherwise, whatever they're working on." Or it's gonna end up being, here's the announcement, here's a tease, and then you'll see more next year. That's about it.
I think it's going to be more towards that. I don't think it's coming out
I
this year.
I think
it's a little.
I can dream.
You can hope. I'm just saying I don't think it's realistic.
I think that the idea that the Playground's RPG lands this year is about as likely as Death Stranding landing this year.
Ooh. Fine. Be that way. Damn.
It's the same thing. I got into an argument with a friend about him being like, Halo Infinite's definitely coming this year. I'm like, shut up.
It's not. No, shut up. Yeah, get out of here.
Where's some other things you guys are looking forward to on the Xbox side of things? Is there any super standouts? This year, like this past year, as much as people were like, oh, it's the year of the 60-something rated games, State of Decay 2 was still one of my favorite games.
It's a good game. It's fun to play. It's really fun to play.
I was blessed with that game because I did not run into nearly as many performance issues as others did. Unfortunately, most of my co-op partners did. So
same. That's the problem. I didn't have many issues with State of Decay 2, but most other people did.
Yeah.
So honestly, my thoughts for, I guess, Xbox and what may happen from them for this upcoming generation is I don't really have much, because I think Microsoft is in a position at a point where they realize they can do so many things and they have the potential to do so many things technologically that we might end up being very substantially surprised down the road with some sort of random side project that might end up coming to full products. Like I mentioned earlier, HoloLens 2, maybe we'll end up seeing a standard set integration for AR specifically for Xbox and not virtual reality. So instead of how PlayStation has their PSVR, Xbox will have HoloLens 2 or HoloLens for their augmented reality games. Like Minecraft, they showed off that one time. Seeing how they use Minecraft with HoloLens sold me instantly on that. I thought that was the coolest thing ever. If you can provide me games, plenty of games, a good launch lineup with something like that for next generation, and bundle it with a well-priced, say $400, $300 HoloLens setup, I'd be more than happy if that was like the one major thing they brought out next generation.
I mean, like when you start talking about HoloLens in the $300 or $400 range, I want what you're smoking.
I know. Like
when they debuted that HoloLens, they were like, "Yeah, this is a $3,300 HoloLens unit."
And PSVR was launched at what, $800, $900 as well.
Oh no, PSVR has always been cheap, dude. PSVR has always been the price it's been at.
As far as I remember, no, they had a major price drop. I remember because when it first came out and I looked at it, it was like $800 Canadian to buy the damn thing. I'm like, are you kidding me? That's ridiculous. And now it's 500-ish, maybe 400 Canadian. If I'm lucky.
PSVR significantly got a price drop in September where they dropped the unit from $499 to $399. The original bundle launched at $499, but we as Canadians paid that extra like $200 to $300 on software. So yeah, no, because the HTC reason that PSVR is such a huge deal is because it was half the price of Oculus and Vive, because Oculus and Vive at the time were $1,000 and $1,200 respectively.
Yeah, and now you got Oculus Go, which is just over $100 now, if I remember correctly, $100, $200 now.
That's
pretty substantial.
Market once the technology gets cheap enough, that's going to be a really hyper competitive market.
Yeah, definitely. I definitely would like to see just to reiterate shortly before I move on, just the AR in general. I would really like to see Microsoft double down on that because it's an untapped game market. It's there's so much potential, not with just gaming, but outside technology, because they have experimented with it in hospitals and in engineering as well. But overall, with that type of technology, I think it's just so cool. So many possibilities, so much variety with it.
All I want to do is play Age of Empires and HoloLens. That's all I want to do.
That would be really
or Halo
cool.
Wars. Halo Wars and HoloLens.
Any good RTS would be fantastic in that. It'd be great. Or you know what? Having like an observer's position for certain games, like say for example, the Division 2, you pop out a drone, but you can have it augmented reality to where it displays a map out, and you can move and adjust with your hands, stuff like that. And, drop pins and stuff, and
there's a lot that could be done with it. The big thing for me that Xbox has is the big fixation I have. It's a big fixation everyone had until it became too cool to be excited for it, is E3 this year. E3 this year Microsoft has this unique opportunity where Sony's going, we're going to do our own thing, or we're all assuming they're going to do their own thing. They've never confirmed anything. We're assuming they're going to do their own thing. So Microsoft essentially has E3 to themselves. The question is, do they have the amount of content to do E3 by themselves?
Well, apparently last year Xbox had no games, and they were able to fill out almost 2 hours in their own damn theater across the street there. So I think they might be okay this time around. Just throwing that out there.
The thing is like we're seeing gear up for E3 already. We've seen it on social media. We've seen it. They're talking about what's coming and everything else, and Game Pass is obviously going to be a huge key going forward, and we've got Crackdown 3 this year in February, like
next month.
And what I'll say about Crackdown 3 is no matter what happens there, good, bad, great, terrible, ugly, in between, it represents, I think, the last of the old Microsoft that has yet to move on. It's the last of the old regime that needs to be released, and then we can fully move on to 100% new stuff.
That's actually a good point. I never really thought about it that way, but I guess when you kind of look at it, it's definitely that way. That's the remnants of the old Microsoft. It's the last game from such a far past development that has yet to come out. So that's a good point. I like that.
Yeah. My hype has slightly been growing for that game.
It's kind of cool, isn't it? Like, I'm not a Crackdown fan. I've never really played much, but
I'm not a huge Crackdown fan. But I read an article. I very rarely read outside articles, but there was an excellent piece on Games Radar. They got early access and they got to play some of the multiplayer.
Yeah.
And they said that with the use of cloud technology that they used, whatever that means in the long run, they said this is the next step for multiplayer games like Battlefield and things like that, where you want this infinite amount of ability of destruction.
You don't see it anywhere. It's incredible.
Well, and the thing is like, I remember playing Battlefield 3. Was it 3 that they started doing, like, going really wild with the destructibility?
Yeah, it all started on Bad Company, where they added being able to just blow a hole in the wall with an explosive or a grenade. And then they expanded on from there. And Battlefield 3 was actually one of the first games that had mostly or somewhat destructible environment, and that really piqued a lot of people's interest. Now, currently, Battlefield 5 is the peak, where literally the entire landscape changes. You drop a V1 rocket onto the ground, there's literally like a 20-foot wide crater and it's 10 feet deep. They know you can go hide inside of, sort of thing. Like, the landscape is that viable, that destructible. All the buildings collapse. I can shoot at a building and drop it on and collapse it on top of an enemy, and the debris will actually kill him for me, and I don't have to use any ammo against him. Like, it's come to that point for a multiplayer experience where it's just like it's getting difficult to surpass that. Very difficult.
I think the thing is, and me and Sam have talked about this before, I've done my fair share of dunking on Crackdown 3. And so have a lot of other people. And I will fully accept my loss if this game comes out and it's good. Does it have to be Game of the Year? I don't think it's going to be. If it comes out and it's good and it plays well and it caters to the fans of that franchise,
Perfect.
It's the same thing with Sea of Thieves. We're seeing a huge influx of people being interested in Sea of Thieves because streamers have finally picked it up like Rare had hoped. And it's seeing massive player spikes.
Mm-hmm.
That's awesome. Sea of Thieves didn't cater to what I really wanted out of the game, but they've added constant updates. There is nothing. You literally cannot spend a penny on that game outside of buying it. And to me, that is amazing in itself.
Mm-hmm.
And I just kind of hope as Microsoft moves forward, they keep that in mind. And I'm saying this because there's one thing before we close out on this topic that I need to say. Gears 5, on the off chance someone from the Coalition is listening to this, get rid of the cosmetic packs. For the
Seriously. It's the one really bad thing about Gears of War 4.
That was the most obnoxious add-in to any series that I've I earned a ton of them free. I earn a metric ton of them free. But stop. Okay, get killed by Dom, who's rolling at me with a rainbow Nasher. It's just just stop. Just please don't do that.
This overly top, gory, horrific, stressful game, and all of a sudden you put this unicorn rainbow moving skin on a gun that's chainsawing in half, and you go, I'm conflicted on how I'm supposed to feel right now.
It was I think it was Chief Tommy. He shared on Twitter. It was a clip. It was this new SMG they added to Blackout, and it's a freaking plane skin, and it actually has wings and a propeller, I think.
Yeah.
And I'm just that's not even. That's like a toy aircraft you slapped on an MC.
Oh, boy.
Why? But regardless, I'm excited for Crackdown. I'm excited for this game, this year in gaming. I'm literally sitting here going, I can't afford anything, and there's 15 games I want to play, plus games I didn't play last year.
Yeah,
seriously.
And what's even worse is there's games because I was late buying a PS4 and I was late buying an Xbox One. There's games from 2015, 2016. I'm sitting here looking at Final Fantasy 15,
Hey, you know what? You might be lucky enough. It might end up being on Game Pass one day. Thankfully, you have that chance with Xbox right now, too.
Well, I was going to say, the benefit, dude, is that Crackdown 3, Ori, Gears 5, a lot of these games are coming to Game Pass, so you'll be covered that way.
And you remember, right. Sam, you remember when I said third-party support for Xbox Game Pass is going to increase? I told you.
Yeah.
And it has been, because the trend it's been fantastic. Oh, I'm so excited, man. I'm so excited.
This is a minor prediction, but I'm going to bet you one of the February Game Pass games.
Yeah.
Game I wrote up that's coming to Xbox. I believe that Sultan Sanctuary will hit Xbox Game Pass day one.
Oh, definitely.
Probably.
I think it will. I'll be on, and you guys know my hype for this game, but I don't know if it'd be a smart move for them to do it or not. But I wouldn't mind seeing Anthem on Game Pass too. Might that might do well if on Game Pass.
We'll see.
But I wouldn't mind seeing it. I think it'd be good. They give a lot of naysayers an opportunity to change their mind, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's 2019 as it plays out for the big three from us. We do have some Twitter comments. We have to go through for Q&A.
I want to hear Anchorman's.
I don't want to hear Anchorman's. I'm muting.
I do.
He's not in the chat, so I'm muting him. So some people sent them in replies to threads. Other people DM'd me. Some. So we're gonna start with the public ones.
Okay.
All right. So because Jared asked, Ivan's was I got one. What did Rage and Sam do that makes undead stay away from them on Saturday morning Xbox Live parties?
Nothing. Why the hell don't you join us?
We didn't do anything. He's antisocial. It is what it is.
Hey,
I have children. They like my attention in the mornings.
I'm just hearing excuses.
I'm just. You wait. I'll be back with you guys. Once you guys have families, and when you guys have 3-year-olds, I will be messaging you with Xbox Live Party invites when my kids are like 15.
Hey, joke's on you. Joke's on you. I might not have one.
With all the video games coming out, you don't want one.
I won't be able to afford it.
All right. So, because he's in the chat right now, and I want to make sure we can answer his question before he dips out of the chat, we have one from Chief Tommy. He said, it's safe to assume that Starfield is building. I'm going to disagree with the first part of this question. It's safe to assume that Starfield is being built with the creation engine. Do you think it could destroy Bethesda's studio rep if the game has a buggy launch? There's a two-parter for that.
I'll address the second part first. Do you mind if I take this part first?
Yeah, no, you go ahead.
It absolutely would. It would be a nightmare for them to try and rebuild. They already have a challenge rebuilding their goodwill. However, you're mistaken in it being safe to assume. It's not. I can't say anything more except it is not safe to assume that at all. I would not bet on it using the creation engine.
There you go.
I will say this, and this is without putting my feet in awkward positions, is that if it is creation engine, it's creation engine only by name. As in, things like Unreal Engine 4 is technically Unreal Engine, but it does not resemble Unreal Engine 3 or any prior versions. It's the same thing as id Tech is now on 7. I think if it is made in creation, it won't be what we're used to seeing. People have to realize that Starfield and Elder Scrolls 6, there's a reason why Bethesda used it as a teaser at the end of their E3. These are next generation games. These are going to be games that you're playing on your base Xbox One or your base PlayStation 4. But that's all I'll say in regards to that. And there's a second part to your question, which, of course, I closed out of the Twitter window. What are you most excited for, Starfield, Outer Worlds, or Beyond Good and Evil 2, and why? Well, I'll go first with this. I'm most excited for Outer Worlds because, A, I think it's the first one that's going to come out of those three. 2, it's not made by Ubisoft. And 3, I can't get hyped for Starfield because they literally just showed me a plain space scene.
I'd agree with that. It's way too far off for Starfield, and Ubisoft isn't. I'm in a weird position with Ubisoft where I love and respect what they do, but their games don't really appeal to me, bar a couple of exceptions. It's weird. It's really weird. So I'll co-sign the Outer Worlds for sure.
Jared?
I don't got much to say, honestly. I really don't.
Jared's like, it's not Anthem, so I don't care.
I don't know what you're talking about. Yeah. I got Sekiro 2. I mean, that's the only other game I'm really excited for this year. But, What about Anthem?
We have one
What?
from
Shiny.
Of course, Tick Podcast main account. It's not. This is a general open doors question. Has Xbox first party been as bad as advertised? How many games are rated above 80? I don't know how many are rated above 80. I don't use Metacritic as
Not that it really matters, but Gears of War 4, Ori and the Will of the Wisp, Cuphead if you want to count it, Halo 5, Sunset Overdrive, those are all above 80 off the top of my head. Not
And
that
you know what? It's been pretty good. I think the lineup has been pretty decent and hasn't been spectacular. It could use a lot of work, but at the same time, I think it also could have been a lot worse.
Here's the thing. It's actually been one of their best tries in terms of variety. The problem is they've had a nasty chain of events that have really mismanaged expectations or caused problems for a ton of those games. Yeah. So is it as bad as people say? I presume that's what he means by advertise. Is it as bad as like Twitter says?
No.
Not quite. Does it have a long way to go? And is Sony ahead of them? Yes. Yeah. Not up for debate.
No. Yeah, totally agree. Totally agree.
Is it as bad as advertised? Nothing on Twitter is nearly as bad as it's advertised.
Exactly. Yeah, that kind of goes without saying, right? Like, exactly.
Literally, like all I could think of whenever I open my Twitter app is if anyone's played South Park: The Fractured Butthole, the PC guy is in that game, and he teaches you how to counter, and it's called microaggressions. And I feel like that whole website is just microaggressions about everything. Like you can put a non-controversial statement on Twitter, and two people will be fighting in the thread about it. You could be like, I like eggs, and someone will be like, well, eating eggs is cruel to animals. And someone's going to be like, well, fuck animals. Yeah. And they're going to be like, oh, well, blah, 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 blah. And then you're like into a whole argument because you said you liked eggs. So, yeah, Twitter blows things out of proportion. Is Sony exponentially further ahead than Microsoft at this point? Yes. Do some Microsoft games get overly critiqued? No. I think games as a whole get critiqued on a different level. The same level, it's just some games underdeliver, and some people like certain games. Like, I think our biggest problem with game media isn't bias, because I hate that word. I hate when people throw that around.
Misinformation.
It's not even misinformation. The biggest part is if you gotta have a guy reviewing Devil May Cry 5, and he's like, I don't like hack and slash games. Why are you getting that guy to review Devil May Cry 5?
Yeah, you know, that's a good point. That's a very good point.
It's the same thing as I had a problem when State of Decay 2 released, and the first start of one of the reviews was, I don't like zombie games. I'm like, then why are you playing this?
Yeah.
Like, that would be like getting me to review
It'd be like me getting me to review Persona 5.
Yeah, like you're not a huge
wrong thing.
Yeah, like you're not a huge JRPG guy.
Or the turn-based fan, and it's like the two most despised type of games put into one, and just a big no. It's a hard no.
Yeah, like if you want a good critical review from me, give me an FPS game, just a base FPS game like Rage, Doom, anything like that. I'm good. But yeah, that's good. So we're gonna go to the DM questions.
Okay.
So we have a question from someone who shall remain unnamed.
Okay.
Because they asked to be.
Okay. All right.
And they said, who would all of us are writers, excluding Eric. This question is written with the thought that Eric would be. What is your guys' biggest inspiration? Who inspired you to get into writing about video games? Seeing as it's weird that all of you guys in your podcast write.
I'll let you guys go first.
Now, I guess from my interest or passion for writing in general came from just an overall passion from reading books at a very young age. I've had a graduate reading level since I was 12 years old, like graduate university reading level for a very, very long time. I've enjoyed almost all of Jules Verne's books, and I just love good old classic literature and good stories. In turn, that really inspires me in general to be able to properly portray my thoughts onto pen and paper, so to speak, and to really be able to express myself properly, because I actually have a very difficult time being able to talk what I want to talk about through speaking, like actually talking, because what I think about, how my thought process is entirely different than how I talk about it. Now, when I write about it, it's completely different. I'm actually able to properly organize it and portray how I'm trying to talk about what I'm trying to talk about, if that makes any sense. And then I combine that with my hobby of gaming and my huge passion I have for gaming, and it was kind of just a good fit to have. So I try my best to take what I've learned from reading and the quality of the novels and the books that I have read, and try and use that as well in my writing. So that's kind of why I am where I am now.
Good answer, Jared. That was good. Thank you for that.
Yeah, that was incredibly wholesome.
Well, thank you.
Like, really well done. Sam, do you want to go next, or you want me to
I'll go next. I had a few people inspire me in terms of my writing. I always enjoyed keeping up with this stuff, and it was sort of the natural conclusion, right? It was sort of the foregone conclusion when you think back and look, because it's like I kept on following more and more on Twitter, and I kept on listening to more and more podcasts, and I kept on doing more and more stuff. But I kept on, I mean, I dreamed of a day being able to write about this kind of stuff, but I was never able to until I was. But so I would say that in terms of top three, can I give like a top three instead of just one individual human being?
Yeah,
Okay.
definitely.
My top three, I would say, for both writing and podcasting, would be Greg Miller from Kind of Funny. It's just his enthusiasm for the industry, how passionate and happy he is about everything, the positivity he promotes. I would say he'd be one of them. The second would be Total Biscuit. God, I miss that guy. He was incredible. He was snarky. He was analytical. And he was balanced. More than any other human being I know of, he had balance and was capable of carefully taking a point and saying, now, hold on a minute. Don't celebrate because you got this to consider. Or, well, now, wait a minute. We have to also keep in mind this. So this could be a good thing. And the world is a bit dimmer without him, without his analysis in it, honestly. The third and final one is Colin Moriarty. I love Colin's work. I loved him at kind of IGN. I loved him at Kind of Funny, and I love him now with Sacred Symbols and Colin's Last Stand side quest. The work he does there is phenomenal, fascinating stuff to listen to. So yeah, those would be my three.
Awesome. That's really good.
So for me, this is kind of a weird subject for me, because I made people that knew me from back in the day, I used to do Call of Duty videos and everything else. I was pretty stereotypical first-person YouTube channel, fucking played Call of Duty, everything else. Didn't really have a passion for talking about, like, topics per se. I just ramble through a video or talk about new guns, and I had a lot of success with that. But I used to write music on the side. I just knocked a Funko Pop on myself. Desk. I used to write music extensively. I used to write music and poetry. It was an outlet thing that my therapist told me was good for me. So I was doing that, and I was like, it just really isn't doing it for me anymore. And I lost the passion for making Call of Duty content, because inevitably that gets boring. So I started following IGN more, and that was at that point in time. That's when Greg Miller and Colin Moriarty were they were all over that website all the time. I followed Colin more than Greg.
Mm-hmm.
And I've always been a bigger fan of Colin than I have been of Greg. It's just the analytical side to it, and that's the biggest thing for me, is it's that pessimistic viewpoint. And that's why me and Sam share very similar influences in the terms of Colin and Total Biscuit. A huge one that got me into actually following video game content, and I want to meet him someday and thank him for that, is Angry Joe is the one that actually got me into looking into industry stuff. because like he always used to do like the joke with like the EA guy with the suit and the cape and counting the money, and I always thought it was hilarious. And I started reading more on that, and then I started just stuff like that slowly progressed me into getting more interested in that. And then I was like, I really want to talk about this stuff. And if you want to actually talk, my biggest influences more recently than anything else, and these are actual like people that are close to me that I look up to, is as far as podcasting goes, is Anchorman. And he will always be at the top of my list because I did a podcast with Kid Smooth prior to the Multiverse show. And I was not myself, so to speak. I just kind of sat in the background. I didn't really know what to say or anything else. And Anchorman really let me grow into my own and gave me tips on how to better convey myself. And I would not be the podcaster I am today without that guidance. And the same thing goes for writing. I look up hugely to guys like Jez Corden from Windows Central.
Yeah, definitely.
I've seen him go from he was writing just small-time articles to he's one of the guys now that people go to for information. It's been crazy to watch someone like him growing. Of course, Sam's going to fall into that as well because he made me go from a one article every 6 months guy to a handful of articles every week guy. And if anyone who has worked with me knows, I am the king of procrastination and perfection and spending too much time on little things. So yeah, those are all my like major influences. I think it's always important to have people that are large in anything you're interested in, whether you're interested in music or anything else. There should always be a core group of people you look up to, but always look to your peers that are close to you, or people you work with on a regular basis, or people that are not necessarily in the same size, and draw from those people because those people can teach you something. So hopefully that answers your question. Now, the last question, and I'll leave you guys to figure out who sent it in or not. We'll answer after you once.
Oh boy!
All right. Do any of you guys honestly believe media bias is real? Do you think that there's outlets that actually believe in the fact that specific brands do not deserve to get credit?
You'll have to tell me afterwards who said this. No, there's not. There's no such thing as media bias. Now, I think different outlets and, more importantly, individuals can have a small slant in terms of political beliefs or content they want to produce. And, but that's a different thing. That's a different subject. It's not the same thing. There is not a vast conspiracy. The idea, anyone who writes actually knows this, the idea that you could get any members of the media together to coordinate on what they're going to write about is laughable beyond comprehension. The idea that these guys would work together on something is laughable beyond comprehension.
You imagine like the top guys from like IGN, Kotaku, Polygon all sitting in a room together to try to coordinate one idea?
Yeah, definitely.
No, they're too busy trying to get something out before the other. Again, do I think there's clickbait? Yes, and that is increingly becoming a problem. Honestly, there is a lot of clickbait out there.
In my perspective, my opinion here, I do agree with Sam on basically everything. They're not going to all team up together to attack one specific brand or to talk bad or something like that about one specific brand. But I do think a lot of personal bias does come into play every now and then for certain articles, or how someone views a certain how they view a situation from a certain brand or a company or something like that. Because let's all be honest, we're all attached to one specific brand more so than anything, more so than something else. And I do sometimes think that comes into play because let's be honest. Apparently objectivity isn't exactly important when exactly it actually should be important. So I know there are definitely certain writers, maybe not a lot of writers in the big main circuit, but definitely a lot of the more so small time sites will have very heavy bias. So
I think I get what you're saying, is that there's people that have specific, they necessarily don't project that they're a certain fan of something, but they certainly have a disdain for certain things. And that's perfectly fair. And I do believe that is one of the worst quotes that Jason Schreier ever put into Twitter, was that journalism does not need to be objective. I will disagree and fight that to a nine.
Me too.
And he gets misquoted on that tweet a lot. I understand it's taken out of context. But the thing is that I 100% believe there is objectivity. Because one of the biggest things for me is, if I don't like a game, I don't like a game. People know I'm not a huge fan of The Last of Us. People know I'm not particularly. I'll use a perfect example. Horizon Zero Dawn. I don't like it. I've tried. I don't like it. It just doesn't click with me. But it's a good game. Just because it doesn't click with me doesn't mean it's a terrible game and needs to be thrown in the dumpster. It's visually amazing. They've done some really unique things with it, but the game did not click with me.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat. I think it's graphically beautiful. I think it's a very repetitive gameplay. I think the core aspect of the game is a little bit empty. It's a beautiful world that they created, a beautiful story, background, all that kind of stuff. But as core gameplay goes, I think it falls in line a little bit with Assassin's Creed 2 and that sort of generation of gameplay type. So that's just me, though.
Yeah, and that's what I mean. It's like there's some things people like and some things people don't like. Like, me and Sam talk endlessly about how underappreciated Arcane Studios is for things like Prey and things like that. And the biggest thing, like the biggest criticism that Prey fell to, was that you couldn't shooty gang out of every situation. You had to actually think.
Wait, that was a criticism? Really?
Yeah. A lot of
people are lazy. Damn.
People said the biggest critique of that game was the gunplay was not meant for heavy combat. I'm like, if you look at the game, it's not meant to be focused around the combat.
Thank you.
But I digress. People are allowed to have bad opinions, as Sam always tells me whenever I talk about video games. So that pretty much wraps up the show. There was some other Q&A questions, but I literally would get like demonetized for life if I read them out on YouTube. So we're gonna go with that. Also, the Inner Circle all men's calendar that was requested in my DM, that is not happening. I'm sorry, but it's not happening. So anything that we talked about tonight, any of the news, any of the opinions, all of it is linked in the description. So if you want to check out anything or if you missed something, it's all in the description of this video. I want to thank you guys for tuning into the Gaming Perspective Podcast, episode redacted. So our atros. Oh, good. My English is starting to trail off like it always does. Sam, where can people find you?
You can find me on Twitter at Samuel Tolbert, Tolbert. You can find what I write on tickgamesnetwork.com. There is a lot going on. January is barely over halfway over, and there's been so much news. It's crazy. This is going to be a good year.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's going to be crazy. And Jared?
Well, people can also find me on Twitter at RageVirus_X or as well at tickgamesnetwork.com.
Right on. I'm Nicholas Downey from the Inner Circle Games Network. You can find all my work at www.tickgamesnetwork.com. You can follow me on Twitter at Undead3XVI. And yeah, so I hope you guys enjoyed the Gaming Perspective podcast. We have the big announcement happens next week. Next week, we're going to have a special guest on. We're going to do some wild and zany, wacky predictions for 2019.
We're going to be playing a game. Once Eric gets back, we may have a guest on as well. It's pretty fun. You guys look forward to it. It's going to be a lot of fun.
We're gonna play a game. It's gonna be some fun. We're gonna have a big announcement for the channel and what's gonna be coming in February. And I really hope you guys have enjoyed what we've done so far with this channel. And as the website continues to grow, this channel will grow as well. I want to thank everyone for their support. both for me personally and, of course, the Inner Circle Games Network. And this podcast is an affiliate of the Inner Circle Affiliate Program. Thank you guys for tuning in, and we will catch you all next week, our regular 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.